Your 401k statement arrives in the mail. You flip to the summary page. Down 28% this quarter. The culprit? 7 tech companies you've never directly invested in, yet somehow they control a third of your retirement savings. This is the quiet risk sitting in millions of American retirement accounts right now. While headlines celebrate AI breakthroughs, your pension fund has been loading up on the same 7 tech giants, not because your fund manager made a bold bet, but because that's just how index funds work. When the S&P 500 goes up, you win. But when a third of that index is concentrated in 7 companies, all betting trillions on the same technology, the math gets dangerous. Everyone wants to know, will the AI bubble pop? But here's the better question. When valuations correct, who actually pays for it? The money doesn't just evaporate, it transfers. And right now, the setup looks like this. Tech companies and early investors capture the upside, while American workers unknowingly absorb the downside through their retirement accounts. Late 2025, and the anxiety is real. Reddit threads and X posts overflow with people connecting dots. NVIDIA's stock swings, warnings about trillion-dollar capital expenditures from Google and Amazon, the eerie parallels to 2000's dot-com crash. CalPERS and CalSTRS, the massive California pension systems managing retirements for teachers and state workers, hold roughly half their assets in stocks. When those stocks are disproportionately the Magnificent Seven, a 30% correction doesn't just hurt Silicon Valley. It means pension shortfalls, benefit cuts, or higher taxes to make up the gap. The typical American saving through an S&P 500 index fund didn't choose to bet big on AI infrastructure, but that's exactly what happened. Passive investing, the set it and forget it strategy. Financial advisors love works beautifully when markets are diversified. But when 7 companies dominate returns, you're not diversified. You're concentrated. Remember 2008? Banks were so interconnected, so central to the economy, that letting them collapse would have triggered catastrophe. The government stepped in. Taxpayers footed the bill. Now, look at AI infrastructure. By 2030, projections put total spending at 7 trillion. Data centers consume energy equivalent to small cities. These systems underpin not just consumer apps, but national security, defense contracts, intelligence operations. If the AI sector stumbles badly enough, does the government step in again? The fiscal math is uglier this time. The 2025 federal deficit hit 1.4 trillion. There's less room for bailouts. Yet the exposure is massive. Not just one Lehman Brothers, but an entire ecosystem of interdependent tech giants, each worth more than most countries' GDPs. Unlike 2008's banking crisis, where a few institutions held systemic importance, AI has multiple players. NVIDIA dominates chips, but OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, and others compete in models. That fragmentation might prevent a single catastrophic failure, but it also means the risks are spread wider, touching more parts of the economy. And here's the kicker. Some of these investments are circular. NVIDIA invests billions in OpenAI. OpenAI uses that money to buy NVIDIA chips. Both companies' stock prices climb on the momentum. Goldman Sachs estimates these circular deals account for 15% of NVIDIA's sales. It creates the appearance of organic demand when some of it is just money circulating within the same ecosystem. White House advisors have already rejected the idea of federal backstops. But if your pension is down 25%, your property taxes jump to cover municipal shortfalls, and your brother-in-law loses his job in an AI overhyped sector, the political pressure will mount. The silence is strange. We're potentially setting up for privatized profits, socialized losses, all over again. The same dynamic that made people furious in 2008. Tech companies and venture capitalists capture billions during the boom. When the correction comes, pension funds, retirement accounts, and taxpayers absorb the damage. So why no pitchforks? First, there's no immediate crisis yet. The correction hasn't fully happened. Human nature resists acting on future risks. We wait for the house to flood before we fix the roof. Second, FOMO is powerful. Institutional investors don't want to miss out if AI really does deliver transformative returns. Everyone remembers the people who sold Amazon stock in 2001. Nobody wants to be that person. Third, the profits dominate headlines. Every AI breakthrough, every new model, every productivity gain gets amplified. The warnings: energy costs, infrastructure strain, circular financing get buried in the business section. Academic voices draw parallels to pre-2008 when credit rating agencies failed to flag systemic risks in mortgage-backed securities. The incentive structures were broken then. Are they broken now? When the companies funding AI research are also the ones evaluating its long-term viability, conflicts of interest emerge. After 2008, regulators implemented mandatory stress tests for banks, simulations forcing them to prove they could survive severe downturns. The Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, they all adopted versions. The idea: prevent catastrophe before it happens. Should AI companies face the same scrutiny? A stress test regime could assess whether these firms can sustain their trillion-dollar commitments if revenue growth disappoints. It could model what happens if energy costs spike, if chip supply chains break, if competing technologies emerge faster than expected. It would force transparency about circular financing, about real demand versus manufactured momentum. The UK is already exploring AI assurance mechanisms, urging statutory powers before harms materialize. The logic is simple: waiting for disaster before regulating is backwards. Critics argue stress tests stifle innovation, that heavy-handed government oversight will kill the golden goose. But consider the alternative: trillions in unchecked speculation, millions of retirements at risk, and no mechanism to spot systemic fragility until it's too late. The tests don't have to stop companies from building. They just need to ensure that when companies build on borrowed billions, someone is checking whether the foundation is solid or just hype. Your retirement account isn't abstract, it's your future. And right now, a huge chunk of it rides on whether AI investments pay off in time.